Hello, elementary music educators. Welcome back. If movement in your classroom sometimes feels chaotic instead of helpful, you are definitely not alone. A lot of teachers are told to just add movement, but no one really talks about why classroom movement can then sometimes do the opposite and completely fall apart. And honestly, most of the time, the movement isn't actually the problem. A lot of classroom movement fails because it was never designed to actually support learning and behavior management in the first place. So today we're going to talk about the biggest reasons classroom movement goes wrong and how to make movement actually help behavior, engagement, focus, and learning in your classroom. And the good news is most of these problems are actually an easy fix. One of the biggest misunderstandings about movement is that movement gets treated like a reward, a filler activity, or just a way to get energy out. But intentional movement is so much more powerful than that. Movement, when used right, can become part of instruction, part of classroom management, part of transitions, part of regulations, and we're music teachers. The best part about this is we can use movement as a way to talk about the abstract concepts that can be really challenging to explain to our students until we have them do it. Dynamics, it's just a word. Articulation is just a word until either you're playing it on an instrument or you're feeling it in your body. Now, going along with that, not all movement is equal. Some movement helps students focus and regulate, while other movement accidentally overstimulates students and makes the classroom harder to manage. And this is really important because sometimes teachers try just something to get students moving, and sometimes because they didn't set it up the right way, which I've definitely done 1 or 100 times, the class ends up, instead of getting their energy out, it actually makes the class louder and sillier. And so then a lot of teachers think, okay, movement just doesn't work for my students. But again, usually the movement itself isn't the problem. Usually the issue is that the movement didn't have a clear purpose, or we didn't set our students up for success. For example, let's compare two things. One, I say, okay, everyone, jump up and we're gonna dance around for a second. Now that does get my students up, that does get them moving, but I might not have prepped them for success, and then I might not have found a way to calm them down afterwards. Now let's compare it to some movement that I added to a lesson. The giraffes can't dance. Now, a lot of teachers will use this book in their classroom, and it makes total sense. It's a wonderful story. But what I like to do is I like to use it to add in some movement. First, again, I want to get my students moving, but I also want to set them up for success. So I'm going to tell my students that first, they need to take 10 seconds to listen to the following song. They need to be listening to see if the song is loud or soft. They need to see if it's fast or slow. They need to see if it's bumpy or smooth. Now, you see where I'm going with this. Already, I'm going to be talking about dynamics, tempo, and articulation. So already they have to meet those expectations from me. They need to be sitting the right way. Their bodies need to be calm. And they need to show me that they're actively listening. Now, for me, I don't want them talking through this, so I'm just going to ask them to show me some of the things they might do. I might go, all right, everyone, show me what you think. I want them to show me with their bodies, not with their voices. Next, I'm going to say, is it slow or fast? Again, just show me with your hand. Bumpy or smooth? Then I'm going to have them move like the animals do. So I play them this section. And again, they have to meet those expectations. I'm also going to add other expectations like how they can dance, how much space they can take up, and how they'll know when it's over, and my expectations for how they're going to be sitting afterwards. Now, that's a really large movement break, but this lesson can also have smaller movement breaks along with it, using just TT and Ta rhythms. For this one, I have my students do jumping jacks or jump to the different TT and Ta rhythms. So the difference between zebra, zebra, bear. Bear, between zebra, frog, and bear. And I also use this as a way to introduce some quarter rests. Now, the first example that we looked at was random energy, and the other was movement tied directly to learning that had clear expectations. Now, we're going to be going over some of my favorite ways to transition a class from movement to stillness. But what I really want for you to see is that sometimes students can actually feel when movement is connected to the lesson and when movement feels random. And sometimes students treat those two different movements very differently. The goal is to not just get kids moving. The goal is purposeful movement, meaningful movement. If you're new here, my name is Leanna, and I'm the creator of the Soaring Scarves Academy, where my entire teaching philosophy philosophy is music is moving and moving is learning. For years, I have worked with elementary music teachers on creating classrooms where movement is not just an extra activity, but actually becomes part of how students learn, engage, focus, and regulate. And that's really what this summer series is going to be all about. Over this next video series, I'm going to help you build movement into your classroom in small, manageable, and realistic ways. No giant overhauls, no Pinterest perfect classrooms, no exhausting choreography, just simple, intentional shifts that can completely change the energy of your classroom. We're going to talk about quick movement resets, movement-based lesson planning, behavior prevention, sustainable classroom systems, and how to make movement feel natural instead of stressful. So if movement has ever felt stressful for you before, this series is for you. Back to it, another huge mistake I see teachers do is waiting too long to get your students moving. This is such a common issue, especially in the elementary school. And you can watch other professional development sessions that I have on YouTube going over all of the studies and the cases that show how often our young students need to move. Even asking our students to sit and listen for 10 plus minutes is often going to see our students dysregulating and disengaging before the teacher even realizes that the engagement is dropping. Now, we know what that starts to look like. You're starting to see side conversations, touching each other's neighbors, but then it can quickly escalate. And this is where now a lot of teachers think, okay, now we need a movement break. But honestly, sometimes by the time you need a movement break, you may have already waited too long. Movement works best when it prevents the behaviors instead of responding to them after they already start. Now, we can't always catch it, so in this series, I will be talking to you about a couple ways to grab their attention back before the spiral continues. But for now, sometimes a 30-second participation movement can completely reset the energy of a class before the behaviors can even begin. And those tiny movements matter so much more than the teacher realizes. And again, we're going to go over some of my favorites in a later episode. Another reason movement sometimes fails is because teachers think movement always has to be high energy. And honestly, this is one of the biggest mind shifts that I've had to change in my own teaching. Movement does not always have to mean loud, fast, chaotic, and jumping around everywhere. Calming, regulating, and focused movement can sometimes be the most beneficial in our classrooms. Again, we'll go over a lot of these in more depth, but simple things, tracing shapes in the air, conducting music, moving scarves to calm music, seated body percussion, or ones that really challenge the students' brains, like rubbing their tummy, patting their head, breathing with musical phrases. The best classrooms are not the ones swinging between total silence and then total chaos. An intentional movement can actually calm a room down. And again, this is especially important because a lot of students genuinely focus better when their bodies are involved in the learning process. But we don't always want a class where they're always at 100. Another big issue is that teachers often treat movement like an extra thing to add on to an already overwhelming lesson. And honestly, teachers are, by that point, already carrying enough. A lot of times, teachers feel like movement is just one more thing to plan. And because a teacher can feel like that, it definitely won't be sustainable in the long term. So I encourage you, if you find yourself being one of those teachers that goes, all right, well, now I need to think of a movement break. Stop adding movement in and instead start building lessons around the movement. And that's one of the things that this series will show you how to do because it will make a huge difference. Movement works best when it's woven into a lesson instead of interrupting the lesson. And honestly, this shift alone can completely change the feeling of your classroom. One of the biggest reasons why movement fails is because teachers think it has to be complicated. It really doesn't. Some of the best movement strategies that I use in my classroom take less than 30 seconds. Now, we're going to go over this in depth in my next video, the 30-second movement formula. But for now, think of things like call and response, clapping and echoing, getting them up into freeze poses, standing and sitting responses, shape tracing, seated movement breaks, and body percussion. Those tiny movement moments repeated consistently are often way more powerful than occasional giant movement activities. And honestly, having things like this in your teacher tool belt that you can pull out at a moment's notice are far more sustainable too. So to quickly recap, movement tends to fail when it has no purpose, when students have already sat too long before participating, when the movement only works to raise the energy instead of bring it down, when movement feels like the extra activity, or when teachers think that movement has to be complicated. But intentional movement, that can completely transform engagement, focus, behavior, and learning in your classroom. And if you've brought movement breaks into your classroom and they felt overwhelming before, I really want you to hear this. You don't need to transform your classroom overnight. Tiny intentional changes can completely shift your classroom. Before we finish up, I also want to let you know that if you're watching this series over the summer and thinking ahead to next school year, this is honestly the perfect time to grab the Soaring Summer of Free. It's about a thunderstorm. Yep, it's coming. It's coming. I gotta go inside. We are going to spend the summer talking about intentional movement, behavior prevention, engagement, and lesson planning here on YouTube. You can also explore the full Soaring Scarves Academy curriculum for 2 free months and start gathering ideas, favorite lessons, movement activities, and classroom strategies before school even begins. It's a really great chance to plan ahead and see what movement-based music lessons can actually look like, where the movement, transitions, assessments, and engagements are already built into the lesson structure for you. So if you want to follow along with this series while also building ideas for next year's classroom, make sure to check out the Soaring Summer of Free that is linked below. Thank you so much for joining me in this first video in the series, because now I gotta get out of here because it really is about to storm. Yeah, no, thunder's coming. Thunder's coming. It's coming. Happy playing.